this is Austin Roney, a third grade teacher at the Syracuse Academy of Science and Citizenship. Hello third grade, this is Mr. Roney here on Monday, April 13th with a 3-day section of science classes. And this week is gonna be all about building our own design projects with materials that we can find in the house, hopefully without going to the store. And today's activity is gonna be in 2 parts. The first part, we're going to build a speaker for a smartphone or any other thing that makes noise, but a smartphone probably will work the best. And the second part of the activity is figuring out how we can muffle that speaker or make it as quiet as possible without completely covering it up. And this activity is something I am borrowing from NASA. NASA stands for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. But probably more important to you, these are the same people that came up with the technology to get humans to the moon and explore Mars and explore the rest of our solar system, and also come up with some of the really cool technology that helps planes fly faster and better every day. So, here's a quick list of the materials that you're going to need. First, some kind of tube. I'm using a paper towel roll, the inside of it anyway. And the tube can be pretty much anything. The only important thing is that you need to be able to cut a hole in the top of it. Next, you're going to need 2 plastic cups. You're going to need a pair of scissors, which I don't have yet, but I will get them, and some tape. That's all you're going to need for the first part of the activity. The second part of the activity, it's a little less important what you have. You're going to want some things that you think might muffle the sound. So here's 3 things that I'm going to try. Styrofoam cups, some paper, and some tin foil. Again, you can use whatever you think will be able to be good at muffling the sound in your own specific design. Before we get started, let's learn a little bit about sound. So we learned about sound a little bit in CKLA. And how sound travels. An important thing about sound is that it travels in waves. If you imagine a slinky, for example, and you kind of hold both sides of the slinky and shake it back and forth, you'll see that there'll be a little wave that bounces back and forth along both sides of the slinky. That's a lot how sound waves work. And sound waves are able to make sound because they vibrate the air around it, and the more they vibrate the air, the louder that sound gets. And here are 2 key vocab words for learning about sound today. The first is amplify. Amplify just means to make something louder, and reduce, which just makes something softer when we're talking about sound. So amplify, bigger, reduce, smaller. We're going to do both of those things with sound today. Now, why is sound something that's important to NASA and flying? Think about that for a second and try to come up with an answer. So when I first thought of this question, I really had no idea why sound would be so important to a government agency that makes and designs spacecraft. Why sound would be so important to them. But it turns out that aircraft and jet engines specifically, the reason that they're able to make planes fly and go really fast is that they're pushing a lot of air behind the plane. And all that hot air coming out of the jet engine, when it impacts the cold air behind it, it makes a lot of sound. And so people at NASA are really interested in how to make those jet engines a lot softer, so they don't disturb people on the ground like us every time a plane or a jet flies by. So one of the most important things NASA has discovered is something called a chevron, and I'll pull up a picture right now of what a chevron looks like. A chevron has jagged edges at the end of a jet engine, and the reason chevrons are able to make the engine a lot quieter is that they smooth the transition from the really, really hot air to the really cold air. And so, in turn, by smoothing the transition, it makes it a lot quieter. So today we're going to come up with our own design on how to make our speakers a lot more muffled. So first, let's build the speaker. So our core question today is how can we lower the sound produced from a device without actually lowering the volume of the device? So step one to setting up our speaker is using a marker to trace our plastic cup. And you want to line up the tube that you're using to the plastic cup and then trace around it as best you can. And you're going to do that on both sides with both cups. As you can see by my cup, maybe you can't see, but it's really hard to draw a perfect circle when your cup is jagged like this. Do the best you can. Next thing you're going to do is use your scissors to cut out along the holes that you traced. I'm going to tell you that was a lot harder than I expected. Probably get an adult to help you with that one. A trick that I learned that made this a little bit easier is that I lined up the cups together and put one inside of the other one, and then I cut both cups at the same time. Again, have an adult help you. This was kind of tricky. Then you're going to work on cutting the hole on top of your tube. After you have all your pieces, it's time to get it set up. So, this is the fun part. You're going to, with your hole for your phone or some kind of noise lined up at the top, you're going to attach your paper towel tube to the sides of your new speaker. And you don't want to put the tube in all the way like that. Leave a little bit of room for the sound to come out. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. If it doesn't fit perfectly the first time, go back and cut a little more. You can also bend the paper towel tube a little bit to make sure that it fits. So now, I have my speaker set up. It's not beautiful, but it's going to work fine. And then, get your phone out, or borrow a phone from an adult. We're going to try out our speaker. So pick your favorite song. So you can pick whatever song you want or just set your phone to make some kind of noise. And then the important part is find out or pay attention to the sound as you take the phone out and put it into the speaker. If your speaker is working correctly, the phone noise should get a lot louder when you put the phone in the speaker than when you take it out. I don't know how well you could tell that on the video, but just here listening to it, you can tell that it gets much louder when the phone is inside the speaker than when it's outside the speaker. So the reason why this speaker works so well is because it captures all of the sound waves coming out of the bottom of the phone and funnels them all in the same direction. Sound waves often bounce off of surfaces, especially hard surfaces, when they're traveling through the air. So plastic is something that does a really good job of bouncing the sound waves back and forth without making them any quieter. So by capturing all the sound and then funneling it all in this direction, if you're in front of the speaker, it's going to sound really loud. Compare that to no speaker. When the sound comes out of the bottom of the phone just in the air, the sound waves travel off and disperse in all different directions, and so to your ear it doesn't sound quite as loud as if you put your phone in the speaker. Now, here's the fun part of the activity for you and the part that you get to get really creative and make your own design. So I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do this, I'm just going to give you a few ideas about how we can best muffle this speaker. There's a couple rules to when you're trying to muffle the sound and reduce it to make it quieter. Just like a jet engine, You can't cover up the entire hole here, because in a jet engine, if you're trying to make the engine quieter by covering up the entire hole, guess what? Your plane's not going to actually fly because the air can't get out. So same thing when you're trying to quiet your speaker. Don't cover the entire thing up. See if you can put things around the edges, but you have to leave some kind of way for the sound of the air to get out while you're trying to muffle it. In terms of supplies, use whatever you can find around your house. Use paper, use styrofoam cups, use aluminum foil, use plastic wrap, use your t-shirt, anything that you can use to try to make the sound a little quieter. I want to know about it. I'm going to show you a couple of my ideas and test them out here. While I'm doing that, you should be looking for things to muffle your sound. So here's a picture of my first clever design. I tried to make my own chevrons, like they use on jet engines, out of paper. Unfortunately, I don't hear much of a difference. The music is still really loud. Let me try something else. So, my second muffling attempt is to cut holes in the styrofoam cups and put them inside of the plastic cups. I think this is working a little better, but it's still really loud. Alright, so my last design attempt here is I sort of combined everything together. I put my paper chevrons back inside of the styrofoam cup, and then I lined the outside of the cup with aluminum foil and taped it. I don't think it's making much of a difference. So, just as you saw there, it's okay to try designs that don't work. That's exactly how engineers and scientists get better at what they do. They try things, they probably fail and realize that they don't work, and they try something else and realize that it does work. So, since I'm stuck here, your job is to get me out of this jam. Make a design that is able to effectively reduce the sound, because I can't seem to do it. Be creative, use whatever materials you can find around your house, and your assignment for today is either send me a picture of your best design or put a comment in Google Classroom about what worked the best for you, what kind of materials it was and how you used it. And for those of you who can't find the stuff around your house to do this activity today, still comment in Google Classroom or in a private dojo message and tell me what you think would be the best way to muffle the speakers without fully covering them up.